Oil is a naturally occurring liquid fossil fuel that is extracted from the Earth's crust. It is composed of various hydrocarbons, including alkalines, cycloalkalines, and aromatic hydrocarbons. Oil has many uses, including as a fuel for transportation, heating, and electricity generation, as well as a raw material for various chemical products such as plastics, fertilizers, and pharmaceuticals. Oil is typically extracted from underground reservoirs using drilling techniques. The largest oil-producing countries are currently the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. The price of oil is influenced by various factors, including global supply and demand, political instability in oil-producing regions, and the strength of the global economy. However, the extraction and use of oil can also have significant negative impacts on the environment and public health. These impacts include air and water pollution, climate change, and the risk of oil spills and other accidents. Therefore, there is growing interest in developing alternative sources of energy and reducing reliance on fossil fuels like oil. Here are some data points related to oil. The world consumes about 100 million barrels of oil per day. The global oil reserves are estimated to be around 1.73 trillion barrels. The United States is the largest oil consumer in the world, followed by China and India. The transportation sector is the largest consumer of oil, accounting for about 70% of global oil demand. Oil production and consumption are major sources of greenhouse gas emissions, which contribute to climate change. Oil spills can have devastating effects on marine ecosystems and human communities near affected areas. The price of oil is subject to fluctuations based on various factors, including global supply and demand, geopolitical tensions, and economic conditions. The oil industry employs millions of people globally and generates trillions of dollars in revenue each year. The extraction and transportation of oil can have significant negative impacts on air and water quality, as well as local communities and indigenous populations. Oil is a commodity that is traded on global markets and has a significant impact on the global economy. Quantitatively, the value of oil can be measured in various ways, including 1. Price, 2. Production, 3. Consumption, 4. Reserves, 5. Trade. These quantitative metrics can be used to inform economic and policy decisions related to energy, climate change, and international trade. As an economist planning the future through the World Bank, it is important to consider the complex dynamics associated with the global oil market and work towards a more sustainable and equitable energy system that prioritizes the well-being of people and the planet. There are several ethical concerns associated with the use of carcinogenic commodities, such as oil and petrochemical products. These concerns include 1. Environmental damage. The extraction, transportation, and consumption of oil and petrochemicals can have significant negative impacts on the environment, including air and water pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change. 2. Human health risks. Exposure to carcinogenic compounds found in oil and petrochemicals can pose serious risks to human health, including cancer, respiratory problems, and neurological disorders. 3. Economic inequality. The profits generated by the oil and petrochemical industry are often concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy individuals and corporations, leading to economic inequality and disparities in resource allocation. 4. Social and political instability. The dependence on oil and petrochemicals can lead to social and political instability as countries and regions compete for access to these resources and conflicts arise over their control and distribution. From an ethical perspective, it is important to consider the long-term impacts of the use of carcinogenic commodities and to explore alternative, more sustainable approaches to meeting our energy and material needs. This may involve investing in renewable energy sources, reducing consumption and waste, promoting circular economies, and prioritizing the health and well-being of individuals and communities over short-term economic growth and above all afforestation. Based on a Zissus Labs LLC estimate, it is possible to make a rough calculation of the oil consumption of a war like the one between Russia and Ukraine. For example, assuming that the conflict involves approximately 100,000 soldiers and support personnel, and that they consume an average of 20 liters of fuel per day, this would equate to a total consumption of about 730,000 barrels of oil per year. According to the latest available data from the International Energy Agency, in 2020, China imported about 83 million tons or approximately 1.67 million barrels per day, of crude oil from Russia. This represents about 14% of China's total crude oil imports. Similarly, in the same year, India imported about 22 million tons, or approximately 440,000 barrels per day, of crude oil from Russia, which represents about 10% of India's total crude oil imports.